Hey there, it's Anonymous Tea, where we spill the tea anonymously. Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you guys are all having an amazing day today, sending good vibes, sending positivity, sending blessings, and good energy to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we are reading the court documents in the amended lawsuit that has added Jay-Z. First and foremost, anything I say is alleged and in my very personal opinion. This is for entertainment purposes only. None of this is personal. So a couple of housekeeping things before I read this court document. It's like 21 pages, but I got y'all. So Tony Busby, who has refiled this lawsuit that was originally filed, I believe, back in October, that was originally just against Diddy, and it had celebrities like A, B, and C, right? And so we never knew who the other high-profile celebrities were, and we're still speculating on who the third person is, right? So what has happened when they said these Diddy lawsuits and witnesses and everything else came out? They said that there was a lot of high-profile people that were, either they were revealed in stills of the alleged freak-off videos, or their names at this time were being protected because I think at the time the focus was really trying to, get the charges and everything else to stick on Diddy. And what was happening is these other celebrities are getting what's called demand letters, in which it's kind of letting them know that a lawsuit's going to be coming their way, or that they're going to be named in an upcoming lawsuit, and they can either make the decision in advance to make a settlement or work something out in advance, or otherwise, if they don't, they'll eventually come out whenever it's time. So what Jay-Z and his people did, allegedly, is they went ahead and responded and just decided to anonymously sue Tony Busby, the attorney. They just decided to so he can't say as an attorney outright, hey, Jay-Z's the other celebrity in this lawsuit, right, with Diddy. So what he did was like, since you sued me, I'm going to basically, as an attorney, refile this lawsuit. Well, first I'm going to speak to the victim. If it is okay for us to reveal the other big name celebrity, the second one out of the three, because I think the third one was the one that was watching, right? And so confer with the victim. Hey, we just got sued. Instead of Jay-Z, or allegedly Jay-Z, trying to work something out with us, they decided to sue us anonymously or whatever. But we need to move forward. We need to, let the people know what it is, who this other celeb is. And so that is how this lawsuit got refiled literally today, you guys, and Jay-Z's name was added. So also, Tony Busby also posted that him and his family and his firm is receiving all types of DEATH threats already. And this is the piece I don't like, you guys. We're supposed to be letting things play out in the court system and not the court of public opinion. But I just hate when people, if they don't like the information that they're hearing on a celebrity that they like, or whoever a celebrity that they like is married to or dating or whatever, it's like a whole-on attack. And a whole-on attack on anybody that dares to say or do anything that's against what they want to happen, in hopes that that's going to silence them. And so nonetheless, here we are. And now, with that little disclaimer, we're going to get into this, because I also want you guys to think about, who do you speculate the other celebrity, the alleged celebrity, female celebrity, who was apparently saw this alleged RAPE. So let's get into it as we are going to read these court documents, and you guys are going to let me know what you guys think about all of this. So let's get into it. It says, introduction. It says, Plaintiff Jane Doe, and by through her attorneys, the Busby Law Firm, for her complaint alleges below. Defendant Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love, along with his longtime friend and collaborator Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z,
drugged and raped a 13-year-old girl at an after party following the 2000 Video Music Awards. Another celebrity stood by and watched as Combs and Carter took turns assaulting the minor. Many others were present at the party but did nothing to stop the assault. Combs has been allowed for years to conduct himself in this manner without any consequences. He believes he is above the law. He is not. His close friend, Sean Carter, has been with Combs during many such instances described herein. Both perpetrators must face justice. For decades, defendant Combs abused, molested, raped, assaulted, and threatened and coerced women, minors, and others for sexual gratification, to assert dominance, and to conceal his abhorrent conduct. He accomplished these acts by and through a criminal enterprise built on his success as a rapper, record producer, and record executive. Combs is one of the wealthiest musical artists in the world, behind the facade of being a 3-time Grammy Award winner, discovering and developing multiple famous musical artists, and ranking on Forbes' list as the highest paid entertainment of the world. There is existed something sinister. A dark underbelly of crime, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, bribery, and prostitution. Combs is a menace to society, women, and children. While his wealth has kept him above consequence for years, Combs now faces the awesome power of the American judicial system and ultimately a jury of his peers who will be asked to punish him for his deplorable conduct and described herein. Combs' businesses. Combs' business enterprise central to the pervasive acts of sexual assault and abuse committed by him during the last decades. Combs operated his business headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Books Holdings, Inc., Bad Boy Records, LLC, Bad Boy Entertainment, LLC, Bad Boy Productions, LLC, Daddy's House Recording Studio, Inc., and CEOPCO, LLC, Combs Global, Combs Enterprises, LLC, Combs Enterprises, and Combs Global, collectively the Combs Business. Corporate entities in the Combs Business portfolio included record labels, a recording studio, an apparent line, alcoholic spirits promoting business, a marketing agency, talent discovery, a television network, and media company. On the surface, each of these businesses served as a legitimate purpose related to entertainment, music, and other subjects. But in reality, Combs, and through himself and his agents, employees, and contractors, used these businesses to sexually assault, abuse, threaten, and coerce hundreds of individuals through sexual quid pro quo schemes, as well as take advantage of an individual's impunity, thinking the victims would never have any recourse. Combs and his agents, employees, and contractors through these Combs businesses would tell them, this is what it takes to be famous. What are you willing to do to become a star? And perform this sexual act, or else, in exchange for the victim performing a non-consensual sexual act for the gratification of Combs and his cohort. I just want to reread this. Oh my gosh. So Combs and his agents, employees, and contractors through these Combs businesses would tell victims, this is what it takes to be famous. What are you willing to do to become a star? And perform this sexual act, or else, in exchange for the victim performing a non-sexual act for the gratification of Combs and his cohort. Members and associates of the Combs business engaged in and or attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of prostitution, coercion, and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs business constituted an ongoing organization whose members functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of Combs. Combs' pervasive history of sexual assault and violence. For years, Combs and his businesses engaged in a persistent and persuasive pattern of abuse towards women, men, and minors. This abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated both men and women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with both commercial sex workers and unsuspecting partygoers. Combs ensured participation from these individuals by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them with or without their knowledge, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation, violence, and illicit drugs. Combs particularly fancied the use of the popular date rape drug Rifanol or GHB to commit heinous non-consensual acts of sex violence and RAPE onto countless victims. Combs often would secretly use the drug and alcoholic beverage sold at his served at his parties. Partygoers were forced to consume the alcoholic beverages containing GHB either prior to, entering, or while at Combs' party. There are also allegations of Combs dousing victims in lotions, similar body oils, also laced with GHB, so that the drug would be absorbed through the victim's skin and make it easier to assault him or her. Furthermore, it is well known that Combs had a practice of lacing water bottles with other substances, such as Xanax, and distributing them at his parties. Combs' recurrent and pervasive physical abuse took place for multiple decades. His tendencies of violence and sexual assault were well known amongst his colleagues, employees, agents, and businesses. On numerous occasions from at least in or about 1996 and continuing for years, Combs assaulted women and men by striking, punching, drugging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. Combs also assaulted children both physically and sexually. In 1996, Combs was found guilty of criminal mischief for threatening a photographer from the New York Post with a gun. In 1999, he was arrested and charged with second-degree assault and criminal mischief in a connection with assaulting a record executive. Combs was arrested again the same year for his involvement in a shooting at a club in New York. Another instance of violence that occurred at the Los Angeles Hotel on or around March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempted to leave his hotel room. When hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. In the past year, numerous civil complaints have been filed by plaintiffs who allege that they had been sexually abused by Combs between 1991 and 2009. In November 2023, 3 lawsuits were filed against Combs under the New York Adult Survivors Act. Cassie Ventura, an artist signed to Bad Boy, sued Diddy Combs in New York for RAPE and physical abuse. She alleged Combs facilitated these acts and through supplying Miss Ventura with copious amounts of drugs and urging her to take them beginning in 2006. Joy Dickerson Neal also sued Combs in New York, alleging that Combs drugged her, sexually assaulted her, and secretly recorded her in the assault in 1991. Liza Gardner, who Combs met at an event hosted by a record label affiliated with Bad Boy, sued him for raping her and a friend in 1990 or 1991 when she was only 16. In December 2023, an anonymous plaintiff sued Combs in New York for drugging and gang raping her in 2003 when she was only 17 years old. This victim alleged that employees and business associates of Combs, through their affiliation with Bad Boy Enterprise, lured her to Combs' home where Combs then RAPED her. In February 2024, Rodney Little Rod Jones, one of Combs' former producers, sued Combs for forcing him to engage in unwanted sex acts and sex trafficking, among other allegations. Mr. Jones alleged that Combs regularly drugged others, including minors, by giving them drugs laced with ecstasy, MDMA, and other date rape drugs. Mr. Jones alleged that Combs in fact drugged him as well as in order to commit acts of sexual assault. In May 2024, former model Crystal McKinney and April Lampros sued Combs. Ms. McKinney alleged that Combs drugged and sexually assaulted her at his recording studio in 2003. Mimicking what has now become a known pattern, Combs promises McKinney to help her with her modeling career in exchange and engaging in sexual contact with them. Miss Lamprose, an intern at Arista Records, which was an owner of Bad Boy, also sued Combs in May of 2024 in New York County Supreme Court for raping her on multiple occasions, secretly filming these acts and showing the recordings to multiple people. Miss Lamprose also alleges that Combs ordered her to take drugs on one occasion before he raped her. In July 2024, former adult film star Adria English, who also was employed by Combs as an entertainment at his infamous white parties that brought together the biggest names in the music and entertainment industries, sued Combs in the Southern District of New York for sex trafficking, alleging that he required her to consume drinks laced with ecstasy and secretly recording the sex acts. In September 2024, singer and songwriter Dawn Angelique Richard also sued Combs. Richard was employed by Combs by part of the group Danity Kane, formed by Combs and later as a key member of Combs' band Diddy Dirty Money. She sued Combs in New York for sexual assault, false imprisonment, and for subjecting her to hostile working conditions due to her gender, including degrading comments and threats. Ms. Richard also had alleged that Combs regularly supplied others, including minors, with copious amounts of drugs and alcohol and subjected them to sexual acts while they were sedated and or unconscious due to the drugs and alcohol. In September 2024, a federal grand jury in Manhattan indicted Combs and charged him with sex trafficking, racketeering, and the creation of a criminal enterprise in which he abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. See the United States versus America versus Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love, Index 24, criminal 542 indictment SDNY. The indictment explains that Combs' abuse of women and minors was enabled and conspired by the employees, resources, and influences of the multifaceted business empire he led and controlled, and creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Combs' long history of violence against women unequivocally establishes that his actions are motivated by gender, by both men and women. Combs has a profound contempt of women and a desire to dominate both minors and other men. His conduct shows a long-standing practice of denigrating, defeating, and attempting to humiliate men, women, and children. His practices and desires are different for men, women, and children, but his actions are unequivocally motivated by the victim's particular gender and age. Plaintiff's allegations herein substantially mirror Combs' prior conduct as established through criminal indictments and other lawsuits. Through this case, plaintiff seeks a full measure of justice from a man who thought his power, money, and influence rendered him untouchable. Plaintiff joins many other victims by filing this complaint in hopes their common voice makes it impossible for Combs to assault another person ever again. Defendant Carter is, like Combs, a wildly successful rapper and businessman. Carter and Combs have a long history together. Carter met and began collaborating musically with Combs in the 1990s. Combs and Carter rose together to the very top of the hip-hop industry in terms of the fame and the influence by the end of the decade. Combs and Carter were simply not only occasional collaborators in the music industry, the two men develop a close friendship that has been well documented from the late 1990s to the present. Together, they have attended countless music industry events for each other's business ventures, parties, and after parties. Indeed, the two apparently are so close that Combs stated in 2023 that Carter, referring to Jay-Z, Sean Carter, is the only person other than Combs' mother who is allowed to call him by his legal first name of Sean. In 2000, near the height of their fame, power, and influence, Combs and Carter attended the 2000 Video Music Awards in New York City. Afterwards, Combs hosted an after-party for many of the most famous celebrities in the music and entertainment industries, including Carter, which is where the events alleged in this complaint occurred. Parties. Plaintiff Jane Doe is a female who resides in Alabama. Defendant is Sean Combs, a male who, on information and belief, resides in New York City through incarceration in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. On information and belief, at all relevant times, Combs owned and or controlled Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Bad Boy Productions Holdings, Bad Boy Books Holdings, Bad Boy Records LLC, Bad Boy Entertainment LLC, Bad Boy Productions LLC, collectively Bad Boy, Daddy's House Recording Studio, and CEO LLC, Combs Global, Combs Enterprises LLC, altogether the Combs Corporations. The facts of Combs' ownerships and titles at the Combs Corporations enabled and conspired with him to commit the unlawful sexual violence against plaintiff described herein. Defendant Daddy's Homes Recordings is a domestic business corporation that is incorporated in New York and, on information and belief, now has principal place of business at 9255 Sunset Boulevard, second floor, West Hollywood, California, 969. Combs is listed as the CEO in public filings with listed address of 1710 Broadway, New York, 119. At the time of the events alleged herein, Daddy's House was a world-class recording studio owned by Combs, located at 321 West 44th Street, Suite 201, New York, 136 zip code. On information and belief, all relevant times, Bad Boy and Combs together owned and operated at Daddy's House. On information and belief, the Bad Boy recording studio that was located on the premises of Daddy's House, Combs used the Daddy's House brand, stature, and their ownership and titles at Daddy's House to commit the unlawful sexual violence against plaintiffs described herein. Defendant CEOPCO LLC, Combs Global, Combs Enterprises LLC. Combs Global is a limited liability company incorporated in Delaware that has its principal place of business at 9255 Sunset Boulevard, second floor, West Hollywood, 969. On information and belief, all members of Combs Global are citizens of Delaware, New York, and or California. On information and belief, Combs Global was an alter ego for Combs and or a successor in interest to Combs' other corporations and or was established or used by Combs for the purpose of moving, disposing of, and insulating his assets, including connection with his criminal activities, to avoid liability. Combs Global currently owns, controls, and or oversees Bad Boy and Combs' other business ventures in the music, fashion, fragrance, beverage, marketing, film, television, and media industries. As part of his renowned Bad Boy record label, Combs has established several corporate entities under the Bad Boy name over the past few decades, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Bad Boy Productions, Bad Boy Books Holdings, Bad Boy Records LLC, Bad Boy Entertainment, and Bad Boy Productions LLC, together Bad Boy. On information and belief, all Bad Boy Corporation entities are alter egos for Combs, controlled and or directed by Combs, and or insulating his assets, including a connection with his criminal activities to avoid liability. On information and belief, we believe that Bad Boy entities are now owned and or controlled by Combs or by Combs Global. Combs used the Bad Boy premises recording studio and their ownership and titles at Bad Boy to commit these unlawful acts against plaintiff described therein. Defendant Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings is a domestic business corporation incorporated in New York that is information and belief is now principal place of business at 9255 Sunset Boulevard, second floor, West Hollywood. Defendant, because I believe I just, it's like repeating a few of the same things, so I want to kind of get to a couple of other things. Combs is listed as the CEO in public filings with a listed address of 1710. Defendant Bad Boy Production Holdings is a domestic business corporation incorporated in New York. That information is on Sunset Boulevard, West Hollywood as well. Is part of the Bad Boy Enterprises, founded and owned by Combs, and on information and belief, now owned and controlled by Combs and or by Combs Global. Defendant Bad Boy Holdings is a domestic business corporation incorporated in New York. Is part of the Bad Boy enterprise, founded and owned by Combs on information and belief, is now owned and controlled by Combs and or Combs Global. The CEO listed on public filings is Eddie Norwood Jr. with a listed address of 1710 Broadway, New York, the same address listed as Sean Combs in public filings for Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Bad Boy Production Holdings, and Daddy's House Recordings. The defendant, Bad Boy Records, LLC, is a Delaware limited liability company that on information and belief is headquartered in New York and or California. In information and belief, all members of Bad Boy Records, LLCs are citizens of Delaware, New York, and or California. On information and belief, Bad Boy Records, LLC is a part of the Bad Boy enterprise and successor to interests and other Bad Boy defendants that comprise of the Bad Boy enterprise, founded and owned by Combs. On information and belief, Bad Boy Records LLC is now owned and or controlled by Combs and or Combs Global. Defendant Bad Boy Entertainment LLC is a New York limited liability company that on information and belief is headquartered in New York and or California. On information and belief, all members of Bad Boy Entertainment LLC are citizens of New York and or California. Bad Boy Entertainment LLC is a part of the Bad Boy enterprise and or a successor in interest in other Bad Boy defendants that comprise the Bad Boy enterprise, funded and owned by Combs. On information and belief, Bad Boy Entertainment LLC is now owned and or controlled by Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings and or Combs and by Combs Global. Defendant Bad Boy Productions LLC is a New York limited liability company that on information and belief headquartered and on or California. On information and belief, all members of Bad Boy Productions LLC are citizens of New York and California. Bad Boy Productions LLC is the Bad Boy enterprise and successor in interest to other Bad Boy defendants that comprise the Bad Boy enterprise, founded and owned by Combs. On information and belief, Bad Boys Productions LLC is now owned and controlled by Combs and or by Combs Global. Defendant's organization does 1 through 10 currently unknown entities who were owned and or employed by defendant Combs and enabled and conspired with the commission of the conduct complained herein. As the parties engaged in discovery, plaintiff retains the right to amend the complaint to add these entities by name. Defendant's individual does 1 through 10 currently unknown celebrities and or persons of interest who enabled and or conspired with the commission of the conduct complained of herein. As the parties engage in discovery, plaintiff retains the right to amend the complaint to add these individuals by name. Defendant Sean Carter is a male who, on information and belief, maintains residencies in both New York and Los Angeles. Defendant Carter is more commonly known by his industry name of Jay-Z. Carter was identified in plaintiff's original complaint as Celebrity A. Prior to the filing of this amended complaint, Carter received a letter from the plaintiff's counsel requesting a mediation to resolve this matter. Upon present information and belief, Jay-Z responded to said letter by not only filing an utterly frivolous lawsuit, by also orchestrating a conspiracy of harassment, bullying, and intimidation against plaintiffs' lawyers and their families and employees and former associates in an attempt to silence plaintiff from naming Jay-Z herein. This effort was meant to scare plaintiff and discredit her counsel. That effort failed. Indeed, plaintiff chose to file this amendment as a result of the egregious conduct perpetrated by Carter. Each of the Combs corporations aided and abetted Combs in committing the unlawful sexual violence against plaintiff described above herein. Our alter egos for Combs completely dominated by him and used for personal interest and to engage wrongdoing which harm plaintiff and others, and have served as vehicles for Combs to move, dispose of, and insulate his assets, including in connection with his criminal activities, and avoid compensating the victims of his many crimes, including the plaintiff. Jurisdiction and venue. This court has subject matter jurisdiction to pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1332 because this case is between citizens of different states and the amount in a controversy exceeds $75,000. The court has specific personal jurisdiction over defendants because of the acts giving the rise to the plaintiff's claims took place in New York State and because of the defendants are domiciled in New York State and or regularly transact businesses in New York State. Venue is proper in this district pursuant 28 U.S.C. 139b because a substantial part of the events or omissions given the rise of the claims occurred in this district. Jury demand. Plaintiff hereby demands a jury by trial in her claims in this action on or around factual allegations. On or around September 7th, 2000, plaintiff, then 13 years old, had a friend drive and drop her off at near the Radio City Music Hall in New York City so she could try to attend the Video Music Awards, aka the VMAs. Attending the VMAs was on the plaintiff's bucket list and she believed she could gain entry. Plaintiff arrived at the venue and saw large crowds gathering as artists and entertainers began arriving. Plaintiff was very excited. As the event began, much of the crowd moved inside, but plaintiff without a ticket remained outside with others and watched the VMAs on a jumbotron. Determined to get into the VMAs or an after party, she approached several limousine drivers parked nearby and attempted to talk her way into either. One of the limousine drivers she spoke to claimed to work for defendant Combs. The driver told her that Combs liked younger girls and said that she fit what Diddy was looking for. And while not allowing her into the awards, the driver invited her to an after party. The driver stated that he had to drive Combs and others to the after party first, but instructed plaintiff to return to his location after the event and that he would pick her up and take her to the after party. Later that evening, plaintiff excitedly returned to the same location and waited for what seemed to her a long time. The driver eventually returned and drove her to what he described as the after party. After approximately 20 minutes, plaintiff arrived in what she believed to be a large white residence with a gated U-shaped driveway. Once inside, two men asked plaintiff to sign a document which plaintiff did not read, but which she now believes to have been a non-disclosure agreement. She was told that she could not discuss what happened at the party. She gave the men her name and signed the form, but did not receive a copy. Inside the building, plaintiff recognized that many celebrities as she entered what appeared to be a large living room or foyer, and this was containing a large crowd. Plaintiff attempted to mingle in the crowd and talk to several of the celebrities that she recognized and whom she had wanted to see at the VMAs. Wait staff circulated through the room carrying toys of drinks and loud music played through the venue. Plaintiff observed the widespread drug use, including marijuana and cocaine. After attempting to talk to numerous celebrities, plaintiff accepted a drink from one of the waitresses circulating the crowd. The drink was a reddish-yellow mixture that tasted like orange juice, cranberry juice, and something bitter. After drinking just a portion of that drink, plaintiff began to feel woozy and lightheaded, making her need to lie down. A photograph of an actual exemplary container used by Combs and or his agent's employees insert GHB into alcoholic drinks is seen below. So there's like a pen and like a device and a container as well that is in these two pictures. Looking for a place to rest, plaintiff walked down what appeared to be a hallway containing several rooms of it. She entered what appeared to be an empty bedroom so she could lie down for a moment. She did not lock the door. The dorm contained only a large bed with no furniture of any other kind, television, or other furnishings. Oh my gosh. Soon after, Combs entered the room along with defendant Carter and a female celebrity, Celebrity B. Plaintiff immediately recognized all three celebrities. Combs aggressively approached plaintiff with a crazed look in his eyes, grabbed her and said, "You are ready to party." Combs then threw the plaintiff toward a wall, causing the plaintiff to fall. Plaintiff got up and stumbled, at which point Combs grabbed her again and threw her to the bed. At that point, Carter began removing the plaintiff's clothes as she grew more and more disoriented. Plaintiff was held down by Carter as he vaginally raped her while Combs and Celebrity B watched. After Carter finished, he stepped back towards the wall. Combs then stepped forward and vaginally raped plaintiff while Carter and Celebrity B watched. Combs then knocked plaintiff down and attempted to force plaintiff to perform oral sex on him. She fought back, standing up quickly and punching out at the same time, hitting Combs in the neck. Taken aback, Combs stopped his attempt. When Combs backed away in surprise, plaintiff grabbed her clothes and shoes and ran out of the bedroom, holding her dress in front of her like a towel. She ran around the residence until she found the front door and was able to leave the party. Although there were other guests still at the party, nobody appeared to take notice of the plaintiff's distress or attempted to help her. Once outside, plaintiff put her clothes back on and left the scene in the dark. Plaintiff attempted to retrace the route taken by the limo driver. She kept running until she reached a gas station she noticed on the way to the party. A female clerk noticed her distress and allowed her to use the phone. Plaintiff called her father, admitted that she had lied about her whereabouts, and asked him to pick her up. Plaintiff's father arrived to pick her up shortly before dawn. After the assault, plaintiff fell into a deep depression, which continues to affect every facet of her life. Plaintiff suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder and a seizure disorder caused by stress and trauma. Plaintiff has had difficulty maintaining normal relationships and lives largely withdrawn from society. First cause of action, violation of New York City Victims' Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act, all defendants. Plaintiff hereby incorporates each of the foregoing paragraphs of its fully set forth herein. By forcing sexual contact onto plaintiff as a minor female, defendants Combs and Carter committed a crime of violence motivated by gender under the Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act, VGM-VPA, as defined in New York City Administrative Code 10-1103. The requirement that the crime of violence to be committed because of gender or on basis of gender and due at least in part to an animus based on the victim's gender is satisfied because defendants Combs and Carter forced minor plaintiff to engage in sexual interaction without consent. Jane Doe could not effectively consent because of her age. The non-consensual sexual touching of a minor herein presented a serious risk of physical injury and in fact caused such injury. Gender animus inheres when consent is absent. Combs' long history of violence and sexual abuse against women invites a deep contempt and desire for domination over women. The Combs businesses enabled and conspired with Combs and Carter to commit the crimes of violence motivated by gender becomes Combs and Carter sexually assaulted plaintiff at a party related to or referencing Combs' business. On information and belief, Combs' businesses routinely committed sexual assault and gender-motivated violence as detailed in other civil lawsuits to further the business purposes of Combs' enterprise. Given Combs' long-standing pattern of practice of committing sexual violence against women, the Combs business had and or should have had knowledge of Combs using such parties and venues for this unlawful conduct and did nothing to stop it. The Combs business enabled and conspired with Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender by failing to, among other things, protect plaintiff from a known danger and or have sufficient policies and procedures in place to prevent sexual assault and or train their employees on identifying and preventing sexual assault. Giving a long-standing pattern and practice of committing sexual violence against women, including on premises and owned and or operated by defendants, the Combs corporations had and or should have had knowledge that Combs was a danger to plaintiff and did nothing to stop Combs. Combs business enabled and conspired with Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender by failing to properly supervise. The Combs business had knowledge and or should have had knowledge of Combs' widespread, well-known practice of committing sexual assault and gender-motivated violence, including on premises owned and or operated by defendants, and did nothing to stop it. The Combs Corporation further enabled and conspired with Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender by actively placing and or maintaining Combs in positions of power and authority despite the fact that they knew that they should have. that they should have known that Combs had a widespread and well-known practice of committing sexual and assault and gender-motivated violence, including on premises owned and or operated by defendants. Combs used his titles and authority confirmed by the Combs businesses, including CEO, founder, and chairman, to facilitate and perpetuate the violent assault on plaintiff and to intimidate and force plaintiff to keep quiet in subsequent years. On information and belief, plaintiff alleges that defendant organizational does 1 through 10, inclusive and are other parties not yet identified who have enabled and conspired with Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender in the ways articulated above and or as well and or in other ways. As a result of the defendant's actions, plaintiff suffers damages in an amount to be determined at trial and pursuant of the fee-shifting provision at the statute. The legal action has been commenced within the statutory timeframe provided by the 2-year look-back window for VGM VPA claims. See New York City Administrative Code 10-1105. Wherefore, plaintiff respectfully requests that the judgment be entered against defendants as follows: awarding compensatory damages for all physical injuries, emotional distress, psychological harm, anxiety, humiliation, physical and emotional pain and suffering, family and social disruption, and other harm in an amount to be determined at trial. Awarding punitive damages in an amount to be determined at trial. Awarding attorney's fees and costs pursuant to any applicable statute or law. Awarding pre and post judgment interest on all damages, fees, and or costs. Attaching any and all defendants' real property and other assets located in the state of New York pursuant to the Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 64, and awarding such other further relief as this court may deem and just proper. And then it has respectfully submitted by the Busby Law Firm, with the Busby Law Firm by Tony Busby, and his information, his Texas bar number, and the address and phone numbers. AVA Law Group by Andrew Van Arsdale, their contact information as well, and Curtis Law PLLC, Antigone Curtis, and it has their information to contact them as well, you guys. OMG. So this was a long one, you guys, but I wanted to get you guys the court documents. I will react to this in a separate video. Please let me know what you guys think about these court documents in the comments. It was 21 pages. This was the amended court document, just to recap, that had added Jay-Z to this lawsuit that was filed back in October, and he was added to the amended lawsuit because of frivolously trying to anonymously sue this attorney when the attorney tried to warn Jay-Z that he was going to be, like, that his name was going to be named in this lawsuit, but I don't think initially it was going to be released this soon. It was going to be released at a later date, but instead of negotiating or trying to mediate something, Jay-Z just went ahead and sued, and then that prompted the attorney to just go ahead and confer with the victim and then release his name today in an amended file. So nonetheless, there is that. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comments. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I'll talk to you guys again very soon.